Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Welcome back to season 2 B-ish. I say that because I don't really know how podcast land works, and if you do it by years or by seasons, or I don't really know how it goes, but I figured we're going to continue on, and we're technically in our first year. October is the month that we started last year. And so to be able to start again this year in October is such a joy for me. Of course, you know, I had words every season. The first season was, I'm so excited. The next one was, I'm thrilled. And this year is overwhelmed. And overwhelmed, what I mean by that is I'm so overwhelmed that I get the honor and the privilege to use my voice and the platform that I have to bring amazing stories to you. It is an honor to be able to interview everyone. And for those who have said yes, thank you. And I am overwhelmed with gratitude, with joy, and with so much love for this sport. It has allowed it to grow in such a way that I really can't explain. But one yes is all it takes. And sometimes that one yes comes in a way that is unexplainable with challenges, twists, and turns. And sometimes we have to overcome in order to get the final result. And for those of you who've been following my story, you know the moment I said yes to even starting this podcast, right after left, things were hitting me left and right. And I literally was overwhelmed in that sense, but not in a good way. However, this year, I am overwhelmed in the most amazing way. And this season is all about overcoming. Those who have overcome the odds and continue to try beginner's luck no matter what. And so, welcome to this season. I hope you are around for the journey. We have some amazing guests with us, and starting with Mr. Johnny and Jeff Agar. I am thrilled. Let me give you a little bit of background about these gentlemen. This is a duo, a dream team, a father and son dynamic duo. And most recently finished their first Ironman at Ironman, Maryland. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, Johnny and Jeff. I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. How you doing?
Oh, thank you very much for that intro, Miss Lucinda. That was awesome.
Well, you're awesome.
Oh, thank you. We're so excited to be on the podcast, and I love podcasts. So to be on one is just a delight for me.
Hey, let's do a dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mashonda. We're very happy to be here.
Oh, I am so excited to be with you all. You know, when I saw the story, I know Johnny was like, if this girl does not get out of my DMs, she's like, hey, can you do this, please? What's going on? Text me back. I need you. But no, I'm just so thrilled, overwhelmed, excited, amazing, all these things, because what I know is that there is no easy feat when you try. And you started your triathlon career back in 2012. I want you to take me back to that moment, Johnny, and tell me what it was like to do your first ever triathlon.
Well, I first competed with another team, and the guy was an extraordinary biker. So we were behind the pace car for the first 10 miles of the 12-mile sprint of the bike, and it was amazing. I mean, I never felt the feeling of like that in my life, having cerebral palsy, and so to be able to experience that thrill was a joy for me, and I just love being out there with all the athletes, and I look at athletes as kind of like how I have to deal with my cerebral palsy every day, and that they have to push themselves to be better, to be stronger every day. And so after that, I was just hooked. I wanted to do more, and after doing a couple races with the group, called my team Triumph that I started with, Dad said, "Well, Dad saw the joy on my face, and he said, to my sister, why can't we try and do that with Johnny?" So that was how Team Agar was born, and we had great people coaching us and helping us along the way. And pretty soon you do start doing longer distances, and so now we're doing Ironman years later, and it's been a joy and a process to do with that, and I'm just so thankful for this sport and the opportunities and the joys that it's given me. So.
Well, what an amazing journey of starting out and being out with a really good cyclist where you could be behind the pace car. Only people usually dream of being behind the pace car because that means you're going super fast. So the
Yeah.
thrill of
Yeah.
all that is just like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
want more
And it's
of
not going to happen again for us. As long as
this.
we're together, it's not going to happen again. But it was a good experience for him to see it for the
Yeah,
first time.
Absolutely. And there's something about those first. And because your first was such a good experience and you entered into dad's world, and so now you and dad are partnered, talk about the first race that you and your dad did together. And, Jeff, definitely come in and share a little bit about your experience as well.
well, Dad, it was a 5K, and Dad started training on a Tuesday for the 5K on a Friday. The race was on a Friday, and Dad started training on a Tuesday. So that
Not the
was
smartest, not the
a
smartest.
new thing for us.
But the first triathlon was at Ludington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but the first triathlon was at Ludington Lighthouse, it was called,
In Michigan.
and Dad, Dad and my sister did it with me, and it was just a whole new thrill for me, because to be able to do a triathlon, period, was a amazing experience, because you get to experience all the different legs, but to be able to do it with your family, that's a dream come true, and we got to celebrate that finish together, and so after that we were hooked and doing races pretty much every weekend because I loved it.
Oh, wow. So not just one or two races, but you were like racing all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
became pretty constant. We were trying to do at least a race every week or two, either a 5K race or actually a small triathlon. And it was new. It was new for us. I was not an endurance athlete at all. I was younger. I played baseball, and in baseball, you sprint once in a while. You do sprints in the outfield, but you don't run long distance at all. And then, so I hated long distance running. Not a big fan of swimming in any kind of open water of any kind of substance at all. And then biking was not something I did as a kid. That was it. But so I was like the least likely triathlete you would come across at that point.
On his paper route, he biked on his paper.
That's right about it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just to give you a perspective, and this is one of these things where I know you're somebody that what you're talking about is overcoming things. I mean, I would have sworn up and down there's no way I'd ever do a triathlon, and then I would have bet my life again that I'd never do an Ironman. So it's one of those things where you never know what you can accomplish until you get the right motivation, until you start working at it really hard. But I would have never predicted where we are today in this whole thing. And the first triathlon we did together, like Johnny mentioned, the one in Ludington, it was just kind of a goal to try one and do it. And you want to get past the mystery of what triathlon is all about, and just the swimming in a big open water, something I never really had done anything, I never had gone out past where I could touch necessarily. So it was, everything was new about it. We didn't know what we didn't know early on, but it was quite an experience to try to actually do even a small triathlon. And I kind of thought that's where we'd stop, but Johnny had other ideas. So
Johnny he's the driving force behind this team. And so take me to, you mentioned something about having the right motivation.
mhm,
And I think a lot of times that is truly all that it takes is the right motivation, the right mindset, and just
mhm,
saying, you know what? I believe in me. I can do this.
mhm.
So your first one, which was in, I think you said Lighthouse, was it?
Luddington Lighthouse,
Ludington Lighthouse.
Leadington.
Michigan. Yeah, Luddington, Michigan.
Okay, so how was the swim? So we want to take
Mhm.
our listeners through this experience, your very first one. So what was the swim like? And what were the emotions that were going through your body at the time?
Yeah, it was swimming in Lake Michigan, which is a huge body of water. It's like an ocean if you haven't been to Michigan. It's like the ocean, you just don't have sharks and you don't have salt. So it's really, the water is so clean in a lot of areas you could drink it almost. So it was great to be in that water, but it's very cold compared to an inland lake. And so you have a full wetsuit on, and it's just a shocking thing to be getting into pretty cold water and starting to swim in an environment where you're just not used to it at all. It's just not something you've ever really done before. So it was kind of a shocking thing, but we did it with a group. And if people are starting out, then I think a group is a great way to go because you learn from other people who know what they're doing. But in this case, there's a group, they have them all over the country, and there are different types of groups like this, but a group called My Team Triumph, and they take kids like Johnny and adults, and they run them through all kinds of road races and triathlons to give them as much of the experience as they can. And you typically have a 2 to 3 person team. They'll have a boat, you pull the person in for the swim. You have a bike where you're either pulling a chariot or pulling a cart behind you, and then you have a jogger where you're pushing them for the run.
Cool. And so with My Team Triumph, it's more like a relay where different people take on different parts, or is the same person
It's the
who's
same,
teamed
it's
up
the
with the
same three
athlete is
people. Yeah, the same 3 people do the whole race. You just have like one person will pull them on the swim, and then the next person will actually pull them on the bike, and the next person will pull them on the run. But all 3 people stay with the person. In this case, the person who's doing it is called the captain, and the people around him are called their angels. And so they will run the race with them and do everything with them. For safety and all those kinds of things, you have this group of people around the person the whole time. But it's really a great way to break in and do one for the first time, because as you know, the first time it's such a mystery of what it's all about and how's it going to work. And you're out there with a bunch of people swimming, kicking in the head, potentially other things. It gets kind of scary. So getting past the unknowns is a great way to do it, even if you do it with some other people with you. But as a group, it really made it easier for us to transition into it.
awesome. And so the very first time that you did it with Johnny,
Mhm.
Jeff, did you do the swimming part or which leg did you do?
Yeah, I think the first time I did the swimming part with him, and then another person did the bike, and then we alternated on the run with a few of us running with him.
Yeah. Awesome. So when did the transition happen to when it became just the dynamic duo? Tell me about that.
So I want to say it was
20, well,
2014, maybe.
no, we kept doing it with the group until once we got to around 20, well, coming out 2015 and migrating to 2016, we had done some longer triathlons, made a couple small ones by ourselves, but you always had somebody with you, like in a kayak or something. But at that point, it coincided with Johnny deciding he wanted to actually walk in races as well. So Johnny was told, we were told when Johnny was young that he would most likely never walk, never talk, and some other cognitive issues. And he's overcome a lot of those things where he's learned to walk with his walker. But at the time, he had never walked more than 23 steps, and he had decided he wanted to walk a mile, which is easily 5,000 to 6,000 steps. So just that in and of itself was a huge thing for him to overcome, to set a goal so monumental. And just to put in perspective, it's like you and I walk into the mailbox for the first time ever. It's the longest we'd ever gone. And then we decided my next goal, it's not to get around the corner of the street. I'm gonna run a marathon. So that leap from where he was to where he wanted to get to was of that magnitude for him. So that got him even more involved in these races, and he started walking more. And then did a 5K run where he walked the last mile at our church at a 5K they were putting on. Then shortly thereafter, ESPN did a segment on their E60 show of Johnny walking a mile in a race, and so that really launched him from that perspective. So then we started doing longer distance triathlons with him walking at the end of it. We did a half Ironman race in St. Joe, Michigan, St. Joe Benton Harbor area called Steelhead.
Ironman Steelhead, if
Yeah.
you're familiar with that.
Oh yeah.
So
That's
he
a good
walked the last
race.
part of that race.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great race. So then that got the attention of the Ironman people and NBC, who does the annual Ironman World Championship broadcast of the race in Kona every year. And so they asked us if we would be interested in participating in the Ironman World Championship in 2016 and having Johnny walk the last mile of the race, which up until that point, we'd never even done a half together, but it was kind of an evolution. And for us to do that race in Kona, then we would need to be able to do it on our own, not with a team. So that kind of migrated us into doing races just with the two of us.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to that, Miss Honda, my idea to walk in races came about because I wanted to thank Dad for all the work that he had done for me, and so I knew that was a big goal for myself to be able to do that when I had only walked 23 steps. But all the other athletes that I had been around were so positive, and they were so willing to help me do certain things that I recognized to myself, okay, if I have the right training plan and the right mindset to be able to do this, then I can put forward the training and the pursue my goals the way that I wanted to. So triathlon and races isn't really so much about the medal. For me, it's about, being around people that I can really relate to. And for me, having cerebral palsy and being in a wheelchair, being in a wheelchair, you wouldn't really necessarily think of a person like me being able to relate to an athlete. But I think, that's an important part of triathlon, and it's really helped me to not only grow as a person, but also understand what I can do physically as well.
So I'm supposed to be talking right now.
Yeah, it happens to us frequently. I'd like his E60 story that they did, which ESPN is notorious for making people cry. But I've seen that thing, hundreds of times, and I still get teary-eyed when I watch it. So it's you see what I got to deal with every day. It's you can see why you can get motivated to do crazy things when you're hanging around with Johnny.
Sorry about that, but I had to
No,
get that out for you.
like you removed every limitation that was ever labeled to you. You removed it all. And you were like, no, this is what I want to do. And that desire comes from a deeper place. And that's also purpose. Like okay. You were put on this earth to fulfill the purpose of what you're doing right now and to encourage other people, to give them to overcome. And as uncomfortable and the things that you've had to endure, no one else could endure that but you. You were built for such a time as this. You were built for the strength that you have in you, that you are able to say it's your mindset. You have people who can walk on their own recognizance and still choose not to push themselves or try.
Mm-hmm. And it is, you have to have the right motivation to do it. And he's always wanted to be an athlete. So that's what drove him to try to do a lot of these things. But the process is very long and it's difficult, and failure is like a constant thing in Johnny's life, and it is for a lot of people too. But he's trying to use that as just a stepping stone, and we've tried to teach him that, my wife primarily, of, you know, you're going to fail at things, but don't you look at it as a failure. Look at it as a stepping stone to the next thing. Right?
And that's what I like about Ironman specifically, is they don't allow us to have any shortcuts and certain things. And I think, you know, you wouldn't necessarily think of a person being able to swim, bike, and run. But for me, you know, I look at it as doing something that I shouldn't be able to do, but yeah, I do. And so that's really a thing that I really love about races and triathlons.
Yes, that's allowed him to get over hurdles, and us as well. And so as you think about, you know, it's like probably not the smartest thing to do to try to do your very first triathlon was the one in Kona, Hawaii, which is the first full. That, I mean, it's labeled the most brutal one-day endurance event on the planet for a reason. The weather's brutal, the conditions are brutal. It's very hilly and everything. And so, but we tried to do it not even knowing what we didn't know. So it probably would have been helpful to know more about what triathlon when we were getting into it. But it's one of those things where, and my wife especially was pushing us to see that even though we didn't make it, something great could happen out of the whole thing. And it's hard to see that at the time, where, you know, it's hard to, you know, if you're going to have a failure, well, we did in front of millions of people on NBC. So it wasn't the most exciting thing not to have a work out well, but, and we can talk more about some of the details, but some of the stuff that's happened since then is, because of not making it originally, because we kept working and working. Then Johnny's been in a commercial with the greatest Olympian of all time, Michael Phelps, for Under Armour. He's been in another Under Armour commercial with probably the most recognized actor on the planet, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Johnny's got a book out about, you know, mainly about overcoming adversity, overcoming obstacles and all that kind of stuff. And none of that stuff would have happened had it not been for not making it in Hawaii. You know, if we'd have made it, we probably have been like one and done and say, yeah, we've done the best one. We know we're gonna stop doing these things. And so it's forced us to keep moving, keep pushing, keep trying to find a way to get to a full Ironman and achieve Johnny's dream. So some great things have happened out of it. Just the time, like anything, you don't see it right in front of you. But my wife kept saying, hey, something good is going to come out of all this stuff. And I kept saying, nothing good's going to come out of it, right? It's like an idiot, like a typical husband does. But it turns out so many things have come out of it that have been great that we never would have expected. And then here we are today. So it's been great.
And that's what I would say, Michelle, for somebody that's just starting out in triathlon, is you might not have the best races that you want to starting out, but it's, you know, you have to learn something from each experience.
Yes.
And how can you take what you learned from that race and better yourself going forward? So that's what we did with our previous Ironman attempts, and it helped us in our sixth one at Maryland this past weekend.
Yeah, it's difficult to go through when you do get a DNF, you do not finish, right? But those can be stepping stones to other things. And if you're just in it for the medal, then that's not great. But if you're in it for what you get out of the whole sport and the community you're around and the super positive people and your own fitness and everything, then those awards are a little more important. And then, you know, you eventually get to the point where you do get the medal you really wanted.
Again, I should pass you an offering because this is good to my soul. I mean, I'm going to let you, Johnny, be the host because you are like, I'm stuck. And there's a rare moment that I'm ever just stuck and have no words, right? I always have something to say. And in this moment, I'm just sitting here like, yes, Yes. Yes. You're right. You know, your wife, Miss Becky, is so on point when she says that something good will come out of it.
Mhm.
And there's these uh some wisdom that says that nothing will ever be wasted. And I
Mhm.
may have it wrong or twisted a little bit, but like everything works out for your good. Everything.
Right.
Even
Yeah.
the things that feel like they are crappy works out for your good because to your point, there's always lessons to be learned. And let me just say that DNF that you've experienced, plenty of people have experienced, including moi.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In various circumstances, and most notably, to your point, Johnny, uh, did, I can't even really get it out of my mouth, Ironman Maryland last year
Yeah.
and had a horrible allergic reaction. And the film
Yeah.
crew was filming me, and it was such an emotional ending. And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but why show an ending that didn't really happen?
Oh, yeah. Right, right.
And
Yeah.
so you feel the psychological part of that is you got to go through the feels and the emotions of feeling
Mhm.
like you've been defeated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then you got to build yourself back up. And that's the hardest part, I feel like, is the building yourself back up and the confidence to believe in you again.
Mhm. Right.
That's tough. And the fact that you've done that, take me through what that is like, because I know that we have listeners out there who, failure is one of those things that we don't like to do because it has
Yeah,
such a bad stigma. But
yeah.
failing forward and learning from your mistakes and using them as stepping stones like you all did, that's what we have to do. So take me through having the multiple DNFs and how did you overcome and build yourself back up for that?
It's you say that you're surprised by it because I did it, but in reality, it's because of what I learned from you guys. You guys always push yourself to understand how you can better do things and push yourself past your limits. And who am I to sit there on the bike and sit there on the run and sit in the boat on the swim and look at everybody around me and say, okay, uh, how can I learn from these people and how can I not take these lessons in my own life and use them as motivation for me? And so that's why I kind of started walking myself because I said, okay, I may not be able to swim, bike, and run, but I can show dad and I can show these people around me that they really help me and and so it's just all about taking these lessons and putting them into action for me. Is what I think. So
Yeah, and I think, it's important to have a goal, not just finishing a race, but kind of what are you truly trying to shoot for, right? Why are you doing all these things? And that allows you, because when you're trying to work out and do all the training, especially for an Ironman, it's a lifestyle commitment, right? You've been through it, and you have to plan your day out with the weather and the training. Are you going to go inside? You do stuff outside? The duration, who you gonna work out with, and it's a tremendous amount of planning. And then when you feel good, it's no problem. Right? And the days you don't feel good, that's when it really is important to get good workouts in. So you really got to have a strong goal. In this case, trying to get Johnny to formally meet the deadline to have gotten through an Ironman. That's really what kept us going and focused. When you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go swim at the Y, and long weekends where you spend 10 hours biking on a Sunday pretty much consumes your day. So you got to have a reason what to do it. And so that helps for sure. But it's it's the mental side of it too, of just deciding, even if you don't make it through that race, you're just going to continue to keep on driving towards your goal. Because we've had 5 DNFs in an Ironman event, and we've had strange things happen. We had, the one in Kona was just a massive. We got halfway through the bike and missed the bike cutoff. We had another time in Texas where I didn't realize in Johnny's chariot he had a flat tire. I just thought that wind was kind of brutal, and I thought, well, we're just hitting these headwinds, but he actually had a flat tire for a third of the bike, and So that was tough. That made us miss the race. Another year there in Texas is over 100 degrees. Previous to that in Indiana, it rained for 6 hours during the bike, just kind of a driving rain. And so we've had strange things happen along the way. But we just kept looking at them as another learning experience. You know, when we didn't make the race and the finish in Kona, Hawaii that year, NBC was filming Johnny, and I didn't even realize he had said it, but they had asked him when we stopped, they said, you know, basically, what did you think? And Johnny said, well, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And I was expecting to say sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, right? But it really captured things. And I didn't even know he said it until I saw the NBC broadcast. And it really encapsulated that we are having to do and learn from our mistakes, not just learn from your training. Ideally, you learn from people that you interact with. And that's, I think, an important part of the whole development, but you have to learn by doing sometimes. And sometimes that doing is experiencing failure. Then that drives you to not want to have that happen again. And so if people, if they have a DNF and they feel like, I shouldn't be doing these races, I'm not good enough or whatever, just realize you can't have it worse than in front of millions of people having a DNF and them all knowing about it. Your friends might know about it, but when it's broadcast on national TV, it's a very humbling thing. But it does create a situation where you don't want that to happen again, and you don't want to have things go against you, but they're going to, right? You can hope all you want to, but you have to work hard at it. And so after the 6th try, we just finished in Maryland, and it was an epic finish. Johnny walking at the end was really awesome. And all the stuff that's happened between not finishing and getting to that point has been incredible. And I could look at it as, well, I don't like it because we didn't finish races, but my goal was doing all these things for Johnny. So it allowed me to get over it. Right. So if you have, the individuals that are in your audience, if they can set themselves up to do something for somebody else, it allows you to stomach when you don't make it yourself, because it's not about you, it's about the other person or the people you're trying to help or their cause you're trying to bring awareness to. So that allows you to get past it and to keep on moving. And now when when we finally finished, ESPN put a video out of the race, has been viewed over 8 million times. So now, the few million people that might have seen this finish in Hawaii that first time through, now you're looking at over 8 million. That's just on Instagram. There's been other on Twitter, been other videos of our race. So, you get easily 10 million people have seen Johnny and myself finish an Ironman race. So, and showing that they overcame tremendous adversity and tremendous, what you might call failure to get there. I think that's motivated a lot more people than if we'd have made it the first time through in Kona. It'd have been like, well, they must be good triathletes and they got through this, no big deal. It shows that we weren't great triathletes and we just, worked hard and had to gut it out and make it happen. And I think that's probably more motivating to people when they say, hey, here's this old guy hauling a kid through a race. If he can do it, I certainly can do a lot more than I'm doing in my own life. And that's really what Johnny's trying to do, is inspire other people and myself too, to inspire people to take on and do more than they ever dreamed possible.
And I think it makes my stream policy much easier for me to take, in that, if I understand that my challenges are there to help other people, then it just makes my hunger to keep going much easier and much easier to take. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and we're not extraordinary people. It's just we've been put in an extraordinary situation where we can tap into the God-given talents we have, albeit limited when it comes to triathlon. I was an athlete when I was younger because I could throw really hard. I could throw a football a long ways and I could throw a baseball really hard. I was not a superior athlete as far as running and jumping and everything else. So it's really, this is not a sport where it was like I was born to do it. It's a sport I've had to evolve into. But if I can go from 12 years ago or so, it'll be a little longer, but having never run a 5K before, and now we've finished an Ironman with me pulling another human being around, and he keeps getting bigger. I keep telling him to scale back, and I don't. If I can do that, then I guarantee people can do so much more than they ever thought possible. But you got to have a reason to do it. You got to have something inspiring you to do it, because it's hard to do on your own.
That is true. Training for an Ironman does take the dedication that you were talking about. It takes the planning,
Mhm.
from meal prepping to, uh, you know, laying out your clothes the night before so that you're ready to get up. Because when that alarm clock hits at for you guys 4:30, for me, well, 4 o'clock for you, for me it's like 4:35. May hit the snooze button a couple of times. Then it's 6 o'clock before you know it. And you're like, oh crap, I gotta get up and do my workout. Because things happen. Your
Yeah.
body is tired, your body is adapting at different levels of the training.
Mhm.
And so you really have to plan, and it's more like a part-time job because for some people they can get out there and they don't have to necessarily work hard um to train, and so their training sessions may be 12 hours a week where some other people's may be 17 hours a
Mhm.
week or 18 hours a week. And so there's definitely a huge scale and a huge variance, and it's not to
Mhm.
say that one is better than the other.
Right.
It's just very different, right? And so the planning of it all, Johnny, like, how was this for you in your social life? I mean, you were a young whippersnapper. You got, things that you want to do outside of training all day. So how do you balance the love for training and wanting to inspire people and be inspired by others to continue to do this as well as to have a balance to your lifestyle?
Well, there's not much more that I like rather than triathlon, so I would much rather spend hours and hours training with that if it meant that I was gonna have a good time and enjoy what I love to do. So, but I have friends too, but triathlon is mainly my fun. That's what I do for fun. So maybe not for dad, but that's what I do for fun. So
But I think being out training with groups of people, it helps you to get through the training a lot better. But then the social aspect of it is good too, where you're out with other people trying to do the same things you are, and then that
Yeah.
gives Johnny an opportunity to talk to people other than just me all day. So,
Which I'm sure the way Johnny admires you and looks up to you, he's like, there's nothing better than being with dad. So I know
he's
that.
heard
yeah,
he's heard all my stupid
absolutely.
jokes, so he gets tired after a while. So getting around some
Oh,
other people is definitely helpful.
you got dad jokes? We want to hear some of these dad jokes.
Oh no, you don't want to
And
grow.
now you
We don't want to lose your listeners, so we better keep those under wraps.
or lose
Okay.
your lunch.
I love it. So, what is your favorite discipline? Is it the swim, the bike, or the run?
I like the bike mainly because that's where we spend a lot of our time. So I like to kick that in the butt a lot of the time. So that's where we spend most of our time. That's where we have most of the trouble making the cutoffs and things. So I like to see where we're at as far as our training goes, and so but my least favorite part's got to be the swim though, because I can't communicate with Dad. Otherwise, he thinks it's an emergency. So that's kind of hard. But other than that, I like the bike and the run.
The bike and the run. And
Yeah.
that's understandable. Here's the deal. Whether you can communicate with your dad or not, and that's why you don't like the swim, there are
Yeah.
people who just don't like the swim because they just don't like the swim. And so,
Yeah.
welcome to being a part of the Tri family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the swim is very hard, and it's our, I mean, it's one of those things where you just don't think about that much. But some of the best advice we got, and I don't have that much advice for people, but being warmed up before you start swimming is something that I've just didn't realize. When you're running or biking, you just kind of take it easy and you warm up as you're going. And but when you jump into water, especially if it's cold water, all excited for a race, if your lungs aren't fully functioning, if you're not warmed up and everything's lubricated in your body, then it is really tough. And you see a ton of people in the first couple 100 yards, they have a heck of a time, and sometimes they get pulled from the water because they're just not ready. So for us, I mean, I always run at least a half a mile, and I can get to the point where my lungs are breathing deep. Everything's working well. I finally get that advice from somebody because I just kept thinking, man, every time I start swimming, it's just so hard. And I feel like I want to stop. You feel like you're drowning and you can't because you're so excited with the race. So being fully warmed up, it's not going to hurt you to run a little bit before you actually get in the water.
And
And you're just so much more prepared. Your body's prepared. not for a battle, but to do the race. And then the swim is much more enjoyable because you're already warmed up and you're not trying to warm up.
And then you said something to me about the nutrition being the fourth leg of the.
Well, that's the other piece too, that you just don't think about nutrition. In fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said, yeah, I used to go out and, I'd bike for, several hours at a time and it was really hard. And then she went out biking with a group and they would all be eating along the way. And she said, holy cow, you mean you actually eat stuff or, taking nutrition? And she did it the next bike and it was like night and day difference, right? So you just don't understand how much nutrition is helpful for you. And even if you, quote unquote carb load, that only lasts for an hour to an hour and a half. You can't eat enough ahead of time to reinforce what you need throughout the either the training or the race. So learning about nutrition is so critical. And the last piece I'll say is that I eat a lot of salt, or I take in a lot of salt, and I always thought I had too much. I finally got a salt analysis done because my legs would cramp up all the time when we're doing really long distances, and turns out that I take in way below the amount of salt a person should take in when they're sweating and they're working out. So where I thought I was a heavy consumer of salt, I am horribly deficient in it. And now when I take what I feel like are massive amounts of salt now, but I have a prescribed amount after the salt analysis is done by a professional. I take in the right amount, and leg cramping is no longer an issue. But I've had it before in races where my legs were cramping so bad that I really couldn't even go on. And so you don't think about that, the training. You think about the running and swimming and biking, maybe strength training along the way too. But understanding your nutrition needs, especially salt, especially if you're doing longer distances, like a half or longer, that's probably more critical than everything else, because you can be trained up in great shape. And if you're deficient in salt and electrolytes, then your day is shot and you just can't keep going. So one of the few bits of advice that we really didn't learn enough early on, we kind of learned by trial and error. But those are some key areas to research and to get a salt analysis done to find out, are you a heavy sweater of salt, or are you a low salt sweater?
Okay, guys, you heard them. Warm up, prime the veins, prime the vessels, prime your bones. It's important to warm up before your race. A lot of people, raise my hands, may or may not warm up before a race, but it's good advice. Like, I have a race coming up very soon, and actually this weekend at I'm trying to think of the place, Waterman's. And I'm doing this race. It's an Olympic. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try that, warm up just a little bit, even though you shouldn't try anything new before race day or on race day. But this is like a training race for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really good.
Idea for sure. Yeah.
Nutrition. Yes, nutrition is a discipline part of triathlon. It is the fourth discipline. We've talked about that last season. Make sure you know what works for you, whether it's a liquid nutrition, whether it's you like food. Some people like hamburgers. Listen, whatever is your thing,
Right.
Make sure you do you, and make sure you're taking care of yourself. And
but train with it. Don't all of a sudden go, oh, that looks good, and then try that on race day.
Exactly.
You can upset your stomach and have all kinds of issues, and that can blow your day too.
Exactly.
Advice, don't do anything new on race day.
Exactly. Except for me, because this, coming Saturday, I will be priming my muscles beforehand.
And warming up, it's really not anything new. Your body's warming up when you're trying to do it in the water. It's just very difficult to warm up as you're swimming. So if you warm up ahead of time, you'll be ready to go when the race hits. And so I'd say that's not anything new to shy away from. Now it'd be nice to do it before your long swims, your open water swims. Getting loosened up, your body will get used to it. But it's amazing how the other things we've learned along the way is your body knows stuff that you just can't imagine how it happens. So for example, I've seen people that will do certain run workouts and then they stop and their body starts learning that, okay, I run a long distance and then I stop. So then if you get into a race and suddenly you feel like, yeah, this is hard, I'm going to walk through the aid stations and I haven't trained to walk and then keep running, your body thinks, oh, okay, you stop, now we're done. And you actually can start shutting down and it's hard to rev it back up. So if you're a person we in long distances like this, we'll do run walking, where we'll run for a certain amount of time, walk for a minute, and then run for a certain amount of time. And it helps us psychologically think that, okay, I got to run for the 4, 6, 9 minutes, whatever. I can do that. 9 minutes is not a big deal, but running 26 miles is overwhelming, right? If you break it into pieces. So, but you have to train that way. So whatever you do, train that way, so your body gets used to knowing, okay, I run for a while, then I walk a little bit, then I run for a while. And we've had this coach of the run group we belong to, and he's talked about that many times. Your body adapts and it starts figuring out, this is what I do. And if you stop, you're not going to start running very well again, because your body thinks we're done for the day.
Yeah.
So
This is all solid advice. I don't have anything to add to it because it's solid. And just stay salty. For those of you, or for those of us, because Jeff, you and I, we are part of the salty crew. We
yeah.
just add a lot more flavor to the world. We just get to sprinkle our salt and sprinkle our fairy dust everywhere. So yes, but take care of yourself, because cramping it's not fun. It is not fun, but definitely take care of
It's hard to
yourself.
stop. Yeah.
And
I'd say if you do cramp a good amount, taking salt tablets in some quantity is going to be better than not. But if that's happening to you, find out why and get a real salt analysis done. It's very simple. That a local health institute can do a salt analysis on you. So
I love it. What is the favorite distance? Because I know you do them all, but what is your favorite distance that you enjoy doing the most?
I like a 4 Ironman because it's challenging, but I also like the Olympic distance because it's long enough to where you feel like you've done something hard, but it's short enough to where it's a short day too.
Yeah.
So
you actually can feel like you can walk when it's done as well. So yeah, I'd say the same thing, where we like the shorter distance ones just because you get them done quicker. You get to do all 3 disciplines, but it doesn't take up your whole day, and you can function afterwards as well. But we are growing the Ironman distance now. We have liked that a lot more than we did a week ago. So now that we've gotten through one.
yeah.
I love it. So do you have is this your off season now, or do you have any other races that you will be doing later in this year? And what's on the tap for 2023?
So we're doing the Grand Rapids half marathon. It's a half marathon / marathon by us in West Michigan. It's a great marathon if anybody's interested. But it's and then we're doing, that's probably
Yeah,
probably
we'll do
gonna
a bunch
be
of 5Ks, like
yeah.
a resolution run on December 31st, and then the turkey trot on Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving,
Day.
just
Yeah.
so we can eat more turkey.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll do some shorter races, so we
Exactly.
don't have anything longer planned. Our ultimate goal and Johnny's dream goal is to get invited back to the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii. It's actually coming up in about a week in the current year. So our goal would be if we could get invited back, and you have to get invited. You can't really qualify as a team. They have to invite you. Ironman has to invite you. And so our goal is to get invited back to that. We'd have a year of training that we could do, very focused on that event. But that's the dream, to get back there and actually finish that race, since we started there. And that was what really got us prompted into doing longer distance triathlons, was when we got invited to Kona the first time. So it's not a guarantee by any means, but we're hopeful that it might be a possibility to get invited back.
I love that for you all. And as I was thinking about it, I had an epiphany, because of course we record a little bit ahead of time. And so when this airs next week, it will be Ironman World Champion Week. So what?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we want that for you. And who knew? Well, there's someone who knew. God, thank you. Thank you, Lord, for even giving me the insight to not knowing that that was a desire for you. So Ironman, listen, we have Jeff and Johnny Agar right here, and they want to get an invitation to World Championships next year in 2023. Can you make that happen?
We'll see. Maybe have the vote that we need, Mashanda. We'll see.
Better getting a whole group of people praying for us. But yeah, it would be just like the culmination of things for sure. It'd be a great opportunity.
Talk about beginner's luck. My goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Do you see me doing the dance over here? Like, yes, 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 yes. Oh, you're doing the dance too, Johnny. Let's do it. Hey. I love
Johnny
it.
dancing. You're the motivator now. So
Well, we're both the motivating factors. I love it. Okay, this has been a great, great time. Thank you so much. I want to kind of tie it back into something you mentioned earlier. Johnny is an author. Let's
yeah.
talk about this book. Tell
Yeah.
us more about the book, Johnny.
So I wanted to write a book after I graduated from Aquinas College, a small college by us. And so when I graduated, people would always ask me when I went for speaking engagements and things, who are the people behind you that allow you to do these things, and what's the process like for you to do these things? And so after I graduated school, I sat down with my mom, who was my teacher all throughout high school, because she homeschooled me and my sisters. So I sat down with my mom, and we wrote The Impossible Mile, which was my journey to walking in races, and how what my thoughts were as far as races and things.
And overcoming the challenge.
And overcoming the challenges that are associated with them. So.
I love it. And just so everyone knows, the proper title is The Impossible Mile, The Power in Living Life One Step at a Time. And it is available on Amazon. And is it any other places? Do you have like an Audible version?
Sure. Yeah, it's on Audible, or it's on my website, johnnyagar.com.
Yeah, and it's in West Michigan. It's available at all Meijer stores if you know the area.
Yeah.
Then Meijer stores carry it, and Meijer has been one of our biggest sponsors over the course of time. So they've carried his book. But yeah, it's available on Amazon, and I think any of the major booksellers like Books a Million and any other major booksellers, it's all available there as well. So it's done. Yeah, his book has done very well. It came out when it was number one on Amazon for his category for quite a while, and it's been really a pleasant surprise about how many people have taken motivation from it. The main endorser is a guy named Michael Phelps, the greatest triathlete or greatest Olympic athlete of all time. So that's kind of cool.
I want him to do the swimming leg with me at some point. That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. Oh, okay. I'm getting way too excited again. I have to calm. You see what you do to me? You get me so excited.
You're gonna go out and sign up for another race now, past the one after the weekend. So
I know, right?
But he's motivated a lot of people. There's some great stories in the book about people that he's motivated. One lady even told him that she saved his life, or that Johnny saved her life because of the situation she was in before she saw him on the ESPN E60 show. So just extraordinary things have happened throughout our lives. You don't always see them at the time, but you look back at them and they're pretty awesome.
All thanks to you and your listeners and people like you, Mashanda. So.
I love it. Remember, it's The Impossible Mile, The Power in Living Life One Step at a Time. And you can get it at Johnny, JohnnyAgar.com, Amazon, Audible, and in Meijer's bookstores in Michigan. So that is fantastic. Okay, we have this thing that we do at Try Beginner's Luck that we can't let you escape. So you have to participate with us. And it's called Rapid Fire. So we have a couple of questions where you just shoot off the top of your head what it is that you think at the moment, whether it may be silly or not. So we're just going to have a little bit of fun. Okay.
Sure.
All right. What's your favorite music artist?
Zach Brown Band.
Oh yeah. Okay. What about you, Dad?
Boy, I just listen to top 40 and country music, so I've got a ton of them. Oh, my wife yelled my favorite apparently, according to her, is Michael Bublé, because that's all she listens to. So I guess that's what I listen to. So
Is mom going to come over here and take a visit? I mean, since she's yelling, come on, mom, let's see
well, you
you.
know how it is. If she wants me to have an opinion, she tells me what it is. So it works out really well that way. So
I
anyway,
love the
no.
power that, that's the power of a good wife. Yes, she knows how to
Uh,
gently make it sound like it's your idea. I love
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, she's
I,
very subtle about it. She's not demanding. She's very subtle, and so we'll go with that as my answer, and I'll keep the homestead happy. So
I love it. What is your favorite post-race food? So what do you love to eat after you finish racing?
ice cream.
I like donuts and hamburger and burgers. So which we had a lot of when we left Maryland. So
You said donuts and
donuts
hamburgers?
and hamburgers, yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
wanted
a
to say Chick-fil-A, but they're closed on Sunday, and so I couldn't get Chick-fil-A. But I waited till Monday on the way home from Cambridge, Maryland, and got my Chick-fil-A. So
I love it. Did you guys drive to Cambridge?
we did, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we hit
Oh,
on the way out. We first hit Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, and then we hit Five Guys Burgers that afternoon to get the burger fix, and then yeah, because it was on a Sunday. So yeah, we drove back. We have so much equipment we're hauling around. It's just easier if we possibly can to
to
drive.
to
So
drive. Okay, okay.
Hawaii was too long of a drive, so
I,
we flew to Hawaii.
I can only imagine. Now,
Yeah.
what is your post-race or pre-race breakfast? What do
Mm.
you like to eat in the morning?
Peanut butter banana.
I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I usually have oatmeal and a peanut butter Cliff Bar. So
Okay, okay. Now, this is a question that's it's getting a little personal, and I just
okay.
need you to answer it as honest as possible.
Oh,
And everyone who comes on here answers this.
all right.
When you're in a race, do you pee on the bike or do you get off and take a proper pee break?
Oh no, I go on the bike. I'm not stopping Dad. I'm not stopping Dad.
I love it.
Yes, and he's sitting in a seat, so it's not the nicest thing when he's done. But yeah, we figured out it's just better for him to go and then let it air dry, and then it works out better. So
So I get the full athlete experience that
exactly, yeah.
I love
way.
it.
So I've done both where I've had to stop and go, but yeah, many times that you just let it go right there, and it's hard to get used to doing it. You get to take some practice. I wouldn't say try it for the first time in your race, and I would say look around you first to make sure no one else is around you. So you're not as discreet as you think.
I love it. And that's right, Johnny. It is the full athlete experience. Like, at some point or another, you have to do it. And guess what? I've done it. Other athletes have done it. So welcome to the club.
There you go. There you go.
I will tell you that the funniest thing that people brought up when we first started doing these races, and I thought they were messing with us, that you don't wear underwear under your bike shorts. And I said, well, that's insane. Why, but you realize later, hey, 8 or 9 hours with underwear chafing is not a pleasant thing. But I thought people were messing with us. So if you start getting advice from people, it doesn't hurt to double check on the internet. Is that real? But the no underwear thing is real, and it took me a while to figure that out. But
It's very real because otherwise your bottom will not appreciate you. It will be screaming at you.
Yeah. Or the nice bike shorts that are built for that kind of activity.
Well, I am so overwhelmed with joy that I got an opportunity to have not only Johnny Agar, but Jeff Agar, the dynamic duo. You guys have overcome so much together and over throughout your lifetime, Johnny. But most importantly, you've never given up on yourself and you've continued to push yourself beyond what is even seemingly imaginable. And so I just want to salute you, Johnny and Jeff Agar, for who you are and for overcoming and for setting a precedent that truly anything is possible. And whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win. Thank you for coming on my podcast. I know my listeners have enjoyed it. We've had a range of emotions from tears to laughs, but most importantly, we've learned so much from you. So thank you so much. Are there any final words you want to say, Johnny?
I just wanted to say thank you to this community because it's taught me so much in life, and it's You guys have been such a blessing to me, and so it's great to hopefully one day I can pay it forward to your audience. So.
Well, you're paying it forward now because you've tried beginner's luck and you didn't give up. With that said, I'm Mashonda and we are out. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win.